You got us through your high school years. Can you tell us something about your college education?
Yes. I suppose when I was riding high on the crest of the wave of having won the oratorical contest, I thought it would be great to go to a school of oratory. And I found there was one in Boston. Well, we had to be practical. Girls were either secretaries or teachers or nurses. Besides, I didn't want to go that far from home, and what would you do with oratory? So I went to Mansfield State College. I had meant to major, or to go into a four-year course majoring in English and history. But my roommate and the friends I met at first were all going to be two-year elementary teachers, which was possible at that time. And to get out and be able to earn some money sounded fascinating in 2 years. So I switched. My parents were disappointed, but they understood. Later I completed my degree and took extra hours. So I think that completes that area.
So you were ready for teaching.
Yes.
Where did you teach, and tell us something about your career there?
Well, I taught 2 years in a rural school in Bentley Creek, Pennsylvania. This is a small village in Pennsylvania, but close to the New York State boundary. That was an experience that Mansfield had not prepared me for, because there were 4 grades on the first floor and 4 grades on the upper floor. And a teacher was a janitor and everything else. But I liked it. I learned how children learn from other children just by listening. I suppose a vivid memory would be looking for head lice.
Well, I remember as a 5th grader having the teacher have to do that.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I do. But could you tell us something about from the teacher standpoint?
Well, I wasn't used to it. I think this is before people took daily shampoos. In fact, if they had one a month, it probably was unusual out in the country. But the county health nurse came and found them, and then she showed me the technique of using two toothpicks, separating the hair so you could look at the scalp and looking for the nits, the eggs, or the lice themselves. I was squeamish. A drop of blood turned me off, so what did head lice do? I don't think I found very many. I think after my 2nd summer, something very exciting happened. My cousin, who had just graduated from Eastman School of Music, was to be married. And she asked me to be a bridesmaid. Now, I'd never been a bridesmaid before, so I was pretty excited. And at that wedding, I met Gilbert Smith, who was a fraternity brother of the groom. A spark was created right away, and we were married less than a year later. So that was a rapid courtship and a very happy result. Gil was a county extension agent. We lived in Ovid, New York for a few months, and we moved to Ithaca, from there to Norwich, and it was in Norwich that our first daughter, Beverly Ann, was born. Then there was an opportunity to apply for a job in Yates County. Gil received the position, and we moved here on a snowy day in February. We had always lived in apartments. Neither of us realized about having utilities turned on. And the strange thing is, we moved into the house next door to where we are presently living. The movers had to get our things in by lighting newspapers and putting them in the fireplace. We spent the first night in a hotel. Our cat had to be left in the car. It was very unhappy. It cried so loudly about midnight that my husband got up and put on his coat over his pajamas and came up here to the house to leave the cat. Well, he didn't come back, and he didn't come back. And I got worried, and I put on my coat over my pajamas and crept down the steps of the old Benham Hotel. And there he was outside the door. It seems that when he went down, the night clerk was at the desk. But the night clerk had decided it was late enough. He had locked the door and gone for the night. So I rescued my poor husband on a snowy night in February. I took us to church to hear Reverend Elroy Van Dyke. And we became Methodists, need I say more. And we have been active. First we had one little girl, and then we had 3 little girls. And it was quite a task to get 3 little girls dressed and bathed and dressed and hair just right and ready for church. For a long while we left them in nursery, or for a short time maybe I should say, instead of a long while. And then we took them to church because we thought they should learn. And I don't believe I got much out of any sermons for quite a few years because I was so eager that they would sit properly and listen and not whisper or do things children are apt to do. As I grew older, it seemed it would be easier, but somebody was always late. We were always waiting in the car for somebody. And I remember the task on Saturday was to make sure I had 4 pair of clean white gloves ready to wear. We don't see that anymore, do we, Helen?
No, we don't.
But it was a nice tradition.
Well, I think back then people dressed up for church.
They did.
Now they are much more casual,
They did.
which isn't all bad, but
I won't name many names, but I can recall a teacher that came to school with white gloves on. And perhaps I'll share that with you later.
wonderful. Now, talking about school, your girls started school before the present elementary school was built.
Yes. One girl did go there for a few years, but they all 3 went down to Hutton Street School, which is just a couple of blocks down the street. And the remarkable thing there was they came home for lunch. That just doesn't happen anymore. Well, it was great. It really was, because it gave them a change from the classroom, and I could know what they were eating, and it was a time of refreshment for both of us. All of us, I should say. Of course, sometimes they were afraid of the neighbor's dog, and one little girl was very resentful that she had to ride a tricycle to school while a friend had a bicycle. But that worked out all right.
You were a stay-at-home mom because that's what was expected back then. You had children, you stopped teaching if you were teaching.
And you know, Helen, I'm so grateful for that. I'm so glad I had those years as a stay-at-home mom.
And then you got back into teaching because you were teaching when I first came.
Yes, I was. Well, after I married and had a family, I had no idea whatsoever of re-entering education. But I've been active in Sunday school as a teacher and also a superintendent. And at that time, religious education was taught in the school. Eunice Gelsma, who was a Presbyterian minister's wife, and I went to the elementary school, and I don't know whether it was 1 or 2 afternoons a week, and told Bible stories and tried to teach moral lessons. The Catholic priest also went at the same time we did. And just imagine doing that today. I mean, I've talked about white gloves, talked about coming home for lunch, talked about religious education. What a change. I'm so glad I lived at the period I did. Well, that experience led to home tutoring and to substituting. And then Superintendent William Jasmine asked me if I might be interested in a position at the Branchport School. Oh, I was very flattered, and I was surprised when I got the position. And I had 2 very interesting years down there. Then I was asked to come to Penn Yan to teach 4th grade, and that was best of all. I'd found my niche. I love 4th grade. I loved the curriculum, I loved children, I liked my classroom. I really didn't like doing bulletin boards, but I did them. I didn't have that much of a creative instinct, but I learned. And so I taught 18 years, and that was a very rich and rewarding period of my life. I love to meet children on the street or in other situations that I have had in my classes, and don't think I'm bragging, but sometimes they'll say, "You're my favorite grade school teacher," or I remember the poems, and we did have good stories. So I